We are the Chemical Syndicate,
and this is a Batman podcast. Today's episode, Dynamic Duos.
Welcome, everyone, to the Chemical Syndicate. We are your hosts. I'm Shane.
And I'm David.
And here we are again to talk about the thing we love most in life.
What is that?
I do believe it is Batman.
Oh, that's right. That's what our podcast is about.
It is a Batman podcast.
Wow. And we're going to be talking about Batman today?
Yes.
Wow. Knock me over with a feather.
What a shocker, everybody. Two guys talking about Batman on a Batman podcast. What did you get yourselves into today? Well, I'll tell you what. Today, David and I are going to be talking about dynamic duos.
Yeah.
But not specifically Batman and Robin.
No.
Although I do like me some Batman and Robin.
They're good. But we wouldn't have a Batman and Robin without a couple of dynamic duos behind the scenes, behind the pens that write and draw these stories.
On paper.
On paper.
That's right.
Maybe not so much anymore.
Well, no, a true collector appreciates paper. I am one of those people that appreciates paper.
There you go.
I'm feeling paper as we speak.
Oh, how's it feel?
Like paper.
Ah, nice.
But with that being said, yep, we are going to be exploring the 80-plus year history of Batman via the creative teams throughout the past 80-plus years that have molded and shaped Batman creatively in a lot of different ways that has impacted not just comic book culture, but even pop culture. And now, be very forward. We know this is going to be very, I guess you can say subjective in a sense, but more so we're also looking at certain factors that really matter, such as, I think, landmark, story events, successful kind of sales, that kind of factor in, like the eras in which, oh man, this is really good. Everybody's making money, comic books are selling, and Batman's selling. Those titles are doing great. Just a lot of character moments, things that are, legendary, character creations. Yeah. Just stories, anything that really equated to the kind of success that has, I guess, really lifted Batman's legend to an all-new high.
Yeah.
So it will be, I guess, comparatively a short list, compared to like the fact that we're talking about something that's 80-plus years of comic books.
Yeah.
Just comic books only.
Not a comprehensive list, but just things that jumped out to us in our research.
Now, for those of you that don't know, there are certain eras in the comic book history. So, for those of you that don't know, there's a thing called the Golden Age, then the Silver Age, then the Bronze Age, and what we're living through right now, the Modern Age.
And the rest.
So looking this up too, it's like the years that they break it down for each era, which I've had to question recently because it's just weird. At least I think it's weird when I think about it.
Yeah.
You've got the Golden Age, which takes place between 1938 and 1956. Then it turns into the Silver Age, so from 1956 all the way to 1970. Then 1970 onward to 1985 is the Bronze Age. Mm-hmm. And then since 1985 all the way to today is the Modern Age. Now, that's a huge chunk of time compared to all these other eras had less than 20 years.
Yeah.
Less than 20 years.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of ran out of things to to categorize.
And they can't backtrack either.
Yeah, they can't. Wait, no. The thing that was the Golden Age, that's actually the Platinum Age. Let's call it that one, the Platinum Age.
Yeah, I'm not a rich man, nor do I understand jewelry and the importance of gold, silver, platinum, bronze, all that stuff, diamonds, the Diamond Age, or whatever. But I don't know any of that. Yeah. I don't know how that works. And I think they probably, shot their shot when they did. Yeah. And whoever came up with this concept wasn't thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought comics would be dead after the modern age, but here we are getting closer to 40 years,
Yeah.
and they're still in the modern age.
That's how it's broken down for us. What we've done though is taken that modern age and just broken it down by decade. So we got, as we get into it, we'll get into the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and part of the 80s as well. Can you believe it?
Oh my god, the 80s.
God, the 80s.
The 80s?
Yeah.
I like the 80s.
I was born in the 80s.
I was molded by it. I didn't become the 1980s until I was a man. By then, it was nothing to me but the 90s.
No.
Wait. Disregard that.
Scratch all that.
Scratch all that. Anyways, yes, we're going to break it down as best we can, even through some bits that I consider to be muddled history creatively.
Yeah.
I think we'll be talking about that pretty early on in this list of ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go ahead and explore. We've got a lot of different creative teams, a lot of accomplishments and achievements and things that they've done. And once again, I would, like I said, I would say this is subjective, but we're just kind of breaking it down for what we discovered. And, you know, we're also open and interested, if you're listening to this, if you know a thing or two about the old Batman and comic book creators and artists and writers involved. We would absolutely love to hear your opinions as well as to what you thought of our list and what we come up with. With that being said, let's get this ball rolling. We're going to the golden age, baby.
Ooh, getting in that gold.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do some prospecting.
There's gold in them there comics.
Dare I say, I see a stream and I see some flickers of gold. I think there might be some flakes worth a little something.
There's a Superman, and then maybe there's a little Wonder Woman, and what's right in between right there? What do I see? Is that a Batman?
My God, we struck gold.
Baby, we're rich.
I did not suspect that today I would be trying to do that impression of a prospector, nor for you to perfect doing an impression of a prospector. But yes, we're going to the golden age, which takes us back to the creation of Batman. So imagine the creation of Adam, Bob Kane, as God, you know, touching a naked Batman. Put a mask on Adam. Just getting his finger out there, just touching each other. The creation of Batman. Yes, 1939, the year that Batman was born, thanks to artist Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where everything gets muddled immediately. David, can you walk us through this very complicated early relationship?
Well, it seems that Bob Kane likes to take credit for things that he maybe shouldn't take as much credit for. So Bob Kane came up with the concept of the Batman, Bat-man, and his concept was a man with stiff bat wings, blonde hair, red leotard, and a domino mask. And that's what he had. And he brought that to Bill Finger, who he had worked on some comics previously. And it seems that Bill Finger really came up with all the concepts that we think of as Batman. The dark costume, a cape, scalloped cape instead of a stiff bat wings. Bill Finger came up with...
even under the mask.
Bruce
Black
Wayne,
hair.
Black hair.
Yeah.
Came up with the name Bruce Wayne. Came up with Gotham City.
Batmobile.
Came up with the origin that his parents were murdered.
Mm-hmm. And the detective style.
Yeah, yeah. And even Bob Kane himself would say, you know, he came up with the idea that Batman's a scientist, a scientific detective.
Is there a scientist?
He's not Batman.
Batman's a scientist.
We're going to have a lot of Simpsons references all throughout our That should all listeners should know. Anytime we say something that sounds weird, it's usually a Simpsons reference.
Yeah, that or I'm doing wrestle speak, like this guy jobbed out or something. So just a heads up on that. It's going to be filled with that today.
But yeah, so the reason why we think of Bob Kane as the creator of Batman is because he negotiated a deal without Bill Finger, with excluding Bill Finger, to get the sole rights and credit as creator, so that on everything that you see for Batman, it says Batman created by Bob Kane. And it wasn't only until recently,
Like 2015.
I'm trying to think. Was it?
It was right on time for Batman v Superman.
Yeah, that was the first time where you get to see Batman created by Bob Kane with Bill Finger.
Hell yeah.
Very cool. There's a Hulu documentary if you want to learn all about that.
I think it's Batman and Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad, and it does have a happy ending.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique story. I think it's a great insight to how comic creators, such as writers and artists, it's a really good insight as to the kind of issues that they dealt with compensation.
Yeah.
Being credited and being, paid for the work that's blown up and made, so much money for all these publishers.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great documentary that really covers a lot of ground. It's just, it's baffling and it's sad because he's not the only one, I'm sure, that suffered from that.
No, definitely not. I mean, that's that. The interesting thing is how representative that is of the era where people were just really screwed over. Artists, writers, a lot of people would be screwed over. The deal that Bob Kane got was actually not typical deal to actually have his name on there, like Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, creators of Superman.
Just a year earlier, too.
Yeah, did not get that deal and had to fight all the way to today even to try to get credits and compensation for themselves, for their families. So it's just that, Bob Kane was just, I think he had like a family member that was a lawyer and was able to tell him, hey, this is the kind of deal you want. And he was able to get that deal.
Was that lawyer able to catch a brick through a window?
I don't think he was that good of a lawyer.
Nah, he's not that good of a lawyer. What a bum. But yeah, Bob Kane, probably one of those, I guess if I had to give him some credit, he was ahead of his time in that type of thinking.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what normal writer or artist at that time working for a publisher churning out the funny pages, would think to themselves, man, I think I've got a really great idea, or at least I have an idea and somebody made it better, and I'm going to, lock it down just in case. I mean, who thinks like that?
Yeah.
And especially back then.
Especially back at that time. I mean, back then it was just like the publishing company or the company that you're working for says, hey, anything that you make is ours, and we're going to give you a check, and by signing the back of this check, you give up all of the rights. And everybody did it because they were just like, well, that's just the way it is. I'm writing for this. And they were just happy, I guess, to be able to actually write comics, actually do something that was a love of theirs,
And one thing to point out, too, is, we're talking Detective Comics issue number 27. I mean, it's the debut of the Batman character. It's probably just supposed to be a one-shot throwaway.
Yeah.
So think of all the other issues of certain other comics, like Action Comics. Like, what was it? What issue did Superman debut in?
Action Comics number 1.
So there was no other Action Comics not featuring Superman. But I would imagine that, when you have those types of titles, it's all meant to be short stories, one-shots.
Like Spider-Man was like Amazing Fantasy 15.
Was it Thor Journey into Mystery, or was
I forgot what issue,
or was that Loki? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We're getting out of our depth here.
Yeah. Forget that. But I mean, for the most part, the reason why probably a lot of those writers and artists in general just never really fully thought of that is because, well, this is probably just one thing, one job. That's it. It won't blow up. I'll never see them again.
Yeah.
Batman's never going to exist again. And here we are 80-something years later. we're on a podcast about Batman, and there's been movies that make billions of dollars, and it's a franchise that just keeps churning out money.
Yeah.
So, but how would even Bill Finger on his own thinking to himself, I'm just helping this guy out, do an issue,
Yeah.
and that's that,
Right.
and then he's coming back for more issues and more, and he doesn't. Now it's like
Keeps adding to the mythology and making so much of what is Batman,
right, and that leads us into some of the other contributors. Now, this is where the muddling kind of comes in because you don't see throughout the rest of the golden age of Batman in the comics where you get other creative teams. You get a lot of other creators who come in and work with Bob Kane. Or more accurately, they work for Bob Kane.
Yeah.
And Bob Kane will just basically take full credit for whatever you did, literally,
Yep.
as there's been stories out there. And, next on kind of the list, so to speak, I mean, this is where we sort of deviate momentarily because this is truly a very formative era for Batman, as you're not really getting creative teams coming in and doing quality work for the sake of Batman. You've got people hired doing quality work for Bob Kane for Batman.
Yeah.
And that's where you have somebody like Jerry Robinson coming in for Batman #1 and some other many issues after that.
Yeah.
And he's one of the biggest co-creators of one of the most probably the most famous comic book villain of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, who am I talking about? David, refresh my memory. I am feeling a little bit salty and old today.
I think he has green hair. He has a white face.
Okay.
Red lips.
What?
Kind of has like a clownish.
Oh, I don't
real
like clowns.
clown.
Are we
Yeah,
talking about John Wayne Gacy here?
I hope not.
No, we're talking about another homicidal maniac who's fictional and hasn't really killed anybody that, reality. We're talking about the Joker. The Joker. Yeah, dude. He co-created the Joker. And, even back then, the Joker isn't really going to be considered a recurring character.
Yeah. Yeah. Because doesn't he technically die in that first issue?
Yeah.
He kind of
appears to have died.
Yeah.
They all appear to die.
Is that the beginning of if you don't see the body, they're not dead?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, or maybe that was always a trope back in the day. Somebody falls off a cliff. Well, that's the end of that. But did he die?
But did he? Is there a body?
Is he dead? But yeah, he co-created one of the most, most iconic villains ever.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the Joker.
Love that Joker.
That's what more can be said.
Yeah.
That's it. End of the episode. That's it. It's the Joker. But no, Jerry Robinson, who was it probably more towards the 80s that he eventually got credited, or was
I think so.
Was he able to kind of get that early on?
I don't know actually. I would imagine that obviously he would have been saying that he co-created the Joker. I remember there's that video Stan Lee did this video series called The Comic Book Greats, and one episode was him interviewing Bob Kane, and Bob Kane, no prompting at all, brought up the fact that he made Joker all by himself and nobody else. He brought in some drawing that he said proves it because
See right here, I created the Joker.
I created the Joker.
And I just did it. I thought of Adrian Veidt from The Man Who Laughs, and then I just made the Joker.
And look, my name is right here. It says it plain as day.
I even did the big O in Bob.
That's how you know it's
That's
me.
how you know it's a Bob Kane original. I did it. There's the proof.
The big O.
I mean, it's no Manic Mailman, but but yeah. So it's just weird. Bob Kane would do that.
Yeah, he would just take credit and could not at all really ever give credit. He did after Bill Finger died, long after. I think in his biography, in his Batman and Me biography, maybe he talked about I wish Bill could have gotten more credit, whereas while Bill was alive, Bob was like, no, he had nothing to do with Batman. Like he would take everything he could to say I have sole credit and to get that. And it's like it gets to the point where it's not even like a legal thing where he has to say that so that he can keep getting his money, although that's part of it. But another part of it too is that he was narcissistic. He wanted everyone to think I made this big cultural thing, and then he didn't. I mean, try to think like, did he make anything else? Was there anything else that Bob Kane did?
Yeah, that's really that's the thing. Like, like this amazing character, Batman.
Yeah.
Created by Bob Kane. Just Bob Kane for so long.
Yeah.
For, like the better part of its existence.
Yeah.
And, just imagine like being on a set of a movie like for Batman 89, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine you're Michael Keaton. You get introduced to the guy who created Batman, Bob Kane. You're like, wow, you created a great character and now I'm portraying him and I hope to do him justice by you. And he's like, well, you don't have blonde hair or the stiff wings, but you'll do. Whatever. I mean, it's just, and honestly, you're going to probably throughout the entirety of this series, you're going to hear me just dump on this dude because honestly, it sucks.
Yeah.
But Jerry Robinson, assisted Bob Kane and Finger in co-creating the Joker, along with the Boy Wonder.
Yeah.
The other half of that dynamic duo, Robin.
Dick Grayson, Robin.
Whoa.
Whoa. It's not that kind of podcast. Hold it with that language.
Take it easy there,
Richard.
potty mouth.
Sorry, Richard Grayson.
Richard Grayson of the Flying Graysons. Another iconic character. Another, character that would have such longevity and, evolution from, being the Boy Wonder Robin to becoming his own man, being Nightwing.
Yep.
And eventually donning the cape and cowl as Batman for a period. And it's another really successful character who was recurring and very important to the mythos. Another co-creator that was a ghost artist for Bob Kane's studio. Bob Kane's favorite ghost artist, if I may say so, from what I've read. Dick Sprang.
Yeah.
Whoa, I can't believe I said that now.
Whoa, now you got the potty mouth.
Jesus. Dick Sprang.
Whoa.
That's a hell of a name.
That is a hell of a name.
That's a great great name, honestly. That's a great porno name.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's... I can't believe that there's no... I mean, maybe there is.
I mean, there is a James Dean in
there
porn.
You go. Hey, man.
Don't ask how I know. But there could be a Dick Sprang.
Dick Sprang.
Dick Sprang is, well, not well known, but eventually credited for, co-creating the Riddler. Mm-hmm. As we all know, that guy likes to make you go through puzzles.
Upcoming
main villain in the Batman movie coming out very soon here.
Can't wait for it.
I'm looking forward to it. Also, the Jim Carrey version of the Riddler is something.
It's time for a change.
But one of the most another iconic Batman villain in his rogues gallery, his incredible rogues gallery.
Yeah.
And people love the Riddler, man. So Dick Sprang, he co-created that.
Sprang the Riddler.
He sprang the Riddler. Another, co-creation. That I wouldn't say a great Batman villain, but he's somewhere in there. He's in the middle, but he's also going to be having a big movie debut very soon. I'm talking about Firefly.
Oh,
Garfield Lynns.
Going to be fighting Batgirl.
Yeah, the girl who's a bat.
The bat who would be a girl.
Oh, wow. But he's not a main, not a main guy, at least not yet.
Yeah.
Depending on adaptations and stories you tell, he could be. But he's had longevity too. He's been recurring. He's been featured and adapted in other projects. So it would be pretty cool to see him on the big screen or little screen, what have you. And just another consistent recurring character that was co-created and featured. Mm-hmm. And speaking of another featured co-created character. Kite Man. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, he wasn't like that back in the day, but Kite Man has, is it one of those investments that just pays off later? Kite Man. One of the most recent runs of Batman written when Tom King was writing for him. Mm-hmm. He brought him back, and that's where the whole hell yeah thing, he's just like, Kite Man. Hell yeah. So that's where that came from. But that's it all sprang from Dick there.
There we go.
That was good. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
Another kind of notable thing that Dick sprang is known for as well. One of the more legendary stories featuring the Joker called Joker's Millions,
Oh, that's right.
where Joker receives an inheritance from a mob boss he used to work with or annoy, depending on who you are in that syndicate, and ends up basically getting in trouble with the IRS.
As all gangsters do, man.
Oh man, I love it. Like I love the adaptation for it too, which we'll have to talk about one day in the animated series. Just brilliant. One of my favorite lines ever is, "I'm crazy enough to go toe to toe with Batman, but the IRS? No way." There's nothing a more real statement than that. And a quick thing on Dick Sprang, something I think you had pointed out to me is he's very well known for a certain art style.
Yeah, kind of like big props. If you think of Batman, you ever see him jumping off a big typewriter or going up against like a big, I don't know, pair of scissors or something like that, running around. That's most likely Dick Sprang that drew that.
Yeah. So, big giant typewriter, just Batman being, I don't know, either jumping off of it or being typed into something. I don't know. It's nuts. And then two other notable artists that worked at Bob Kane's studio was Sheldon Moldoff and Lou Schwartz. So I wouldn't say they have anything really of note to really bring up to everybody, but they worked on a lot of issues.
Yeah.
They really, it was just one of those things where they're just churning out work and it's just being, brought over. Now, David told me a great story that he had discovered in his findings about DC editor Julius Schwartz and Bob Kane. David, I need you to tell this story.
Yeah.
I just got a great laugh, and I hope that if you listen to this, you'll just appreciate after everything we've already talked about.
So when I was doing research and stuff for the episode, I came across a video. There's a channel on YouTube called Comic Tropes, and they had a whole episode just about Bob Kane. I think it's called Unspeakable, the Bob Kane story. But he talks about Julius Schwartz told a story at some Comic-Con that Bob Kane brought in some artwork for Batman. He was dropping off artwork, and Julius Schwartz was looking at it and was like, "Okay, this looks good, but this one panel here, let's have like a Marvel style punch. I want Batman to have like a real big fist coming out at the reader here.
Ball up your fist, insert yourself, reach back, insert yourself."
He's giving him the old Two-Face training there.
I love it.
And at this time, it was pretty well known that Bob Kane didn't draw the stuff that he dropped off.
At least all that recent work over the years.
Yeah. And how what his attitude was and how he was so narcissistic about it and kind of a credit hog for everything. And so Julius started to have some fun with him, and he said, why don't you redraw this panel for me? And Bob goes, "Okay, I'll take this home and get it for you in the morning." And Julius goes, No, we got to get this to the letterer right away. So come on, you're the great Bob Kane. This should take you just 2 minutes, right?
The great Bob Kane.
The great Bob Kane. Look at the O. That's you. The big O.
The big O. We all know it's your work.
It's signed right here. You did this, right?
But you drew this, right?
And so after a little bit of convincing, he finally convinced Bob Kane to go and do the art corrections. He was gone for about 30 minutes, as Julius Schwartz says. Brings back the artwork, and Julius Schwartz looks at it, goes, "Oh, it's perfect. Looks great." And so I got to give you credit, Bob. It took you a little bit, but you got it here, and it looks good.
How long did it take him again?
Like 30 minutes.
Okay.
For one panel, so just to redraw one panel with a big fist for a professional artist who's been drawing Batman, quote unquote, been drawing Batman.
I mean, he's drawn all the Batmans for all those years.
All these years.
He should know. Yeah. The great Bob Kane.
Great Bob Kane. And then finally, Julius Schwartz found out later that day, Bob Kane sat for about 20 minutes drawing, erasing, redrawing, erasing, redrawing, until finally he just paid one of the artists in the studio $10 to just draw it for him.
He was just so close to actually earning the credit to that artwork. He still gave it up to somebody else.
Couldn't do it.
The great Bob Kane, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just remember that. The great Bob Kane. Well, let's get out of the golden age because, we We spent enough time on it.
It's dripping in gold. We got to get all this gold off.
I got to get that gold off, So yeah, Bob Kane, Bill Finger set the pace, but it took a really long time to truly establish another team that could really impact Batman. And that's where, once again, DC editor Julius Schwartz come into play, because back in the 60s, the early to mid 60s, he put together a great team of Carmine Infantino, who's an artist, and John Broome, who's a writer, put them together for the sole goal of giving Batman and Robin a new look. And as well as creating stories that are more focused on a detective-oriented Batman.
He had gotten kind of goofy. Batman had gotten pretty goofy by this time. Like in through the 50s, there was a lot of sci-fi stuff.
You mean like jumping off of a typewriter?
Jumping off of big typewriters and going to other planets and having multiple different colored suits, all that stuff.
Everything.
Yeah.
Just out of this world.
Going a little bit too far away from the first story of him just taking out some gangsters.
Yeah. So they were tasked with just bringing him back to Earth and having more grounded stories, or at least as good as grounded stories as you can have, but being able to kind of go back to the roots of what people liked about Batman, which is him being this dark, brooding detective, or at the very least, having, mysteries to solve.
Yeah.
What more can you like? Now, part of that redesign for Batman is one of the most iconic looks that we are still seeing to this very day. Batman decked out in all gray, with a little bit of blue on his
cape
and cowl, and the big yellow emblem, one of the most iconic things.
Big yellow emblem stayed with him, obviously, like I said, to this day.
Yeah, still a big deal.
Yeah, you might not see it as much.
Yeah, not a lot of the modern art, but there are a lot of still a lot of toys and other artwork and things that are very much associated with that look.
Yeah, they had that yellow oval over his chest for from the 60s through the 2000s probably.
Yeah, I would say so. And it's come back a couple of times here and there, depending on, obviously they always try to redesign the Bat logo.
Yeah.
To meet whatever kind of merchandising needs. I'm assuming that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or just to give Batman a fresh look. But this was at the time a very fresh look. Yeah. So definitely achieved that. They also had some assistance from another artist named Joe Giella. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's either Giella or Giella or
Giella.
Giella. Ella. And you had pointed out about that artwork because you had actually taken a look at it, and you had seen that there was a description. You kind of agreed with it that the artwork wasn't. It was different. It wasn't stiff.
Yeah. The thing that I was reading was saying that they took it from Batman being kind of a stiff figure. When you look at kind of Golden Age stuff, it is pretty stiff. Like the action scenes aren't as flowing, and he doesn't look as acrobatic maybe, or as I don't know what, physically powerful as maybe later on. I feel like in this new look, Carmine Infantino was able to create a bit more of a lithe figure, something that's a bit sleeker. Looks like he could run fast and punch hard. I
like that his art just looks like he just punches harder. At least, back then.
Yeah, Carmine Infantino. Show me how to punch a guy.
Show me how to punch a guy, Carmine. But yeah, so they rode out pretty much the rest of the 60s with this new look that really kind of helped things out. However, ending the Silver Age and entering the Bronze Age, it was once again another time for another change. And Julius Schwartz was still the DC editor, and he put together, another great combo that also defined Batman for a new era, for a new whole group of fans to get into. And I'm talking about Dennis O'Neil, who's a writer, and artist Neil Adams. Now, Dennis O'Neil, who affectionately is called by real fans as Denny. It's obnoxious, real fans. But no, people call him Denny. So occasionally I'll call him Denny O'Neil, and so just for context, that way everybody understands where I'm coming from here.
Whoa. Who's this Denny guy?
I thought he was talking about Dennis.
I thought he was talking about the restaurant.
Jesus. I do like me some Denny's. For those that are listening to this that know me very well, I like me some Denny's. Especially shout out to Denny's in Dallas, Texas, right next to that La Quinta Inn. You were fantastic. But Dennis O'Neil, Neil Adams, man, what a combo. These guys they were given the task with revitalizing Batman, trying to reestablish Batman and his dark, brooding nature, and to get away from all that camp style because, even despite Carmine Infantino and John Broome being able to take Batman a little bit closer to his roots as best as they could, that's still during the era that the Batman TV series is very much going strong and it's popular, and that camp style was overwhelmingly it was just a hit.
Popular, yeah.
It was very popular. And in the comics, sales weren't exactly matching that popularity. So it was time for another change, and this time that change was more or less going to an old familiar, kind of style and a familiar theme. And you got to think, too, like we're talking about getting into the very tail end of the 60s and, in 69 going into 1970. Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams, those guys grew up probably reading the very early comics that Bob Kane and Bill Finger put out, where it's Batman being a detective, fighting crime, being a mysterious figure of the night.
Yeah, this is kind of the time period in comics where fans start becoming creators. People that, like Shane just said, people coming up that read these stories as kids are now creating these stories.
And a great point to bring up about that, too, relating to the fact that these are fans that are now creators. They revitalized a couple of characters, a couple of huge characters that were never, I guess, properly used or even taken seriously, who are modern-day pop culture icons. First and foremost being the Joker.
Yeah, Joker had kind of...
He got shelved for,
4 years.
4 or 5 years?
Yeah, about 4 years. They didn't use him in the comics. Finally... Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, bring him back. I believe the Joker's Five-Way Revenge.
Yep, the Joker's Five-Way Revenge. One of the most, I think, probably critically, it's probably the best Dennis O'Neil story that he's had for Batman.
Yeah,
and the artwork by Neil Adams it's outstanding. It's no Muhammad Ali and Superman boxing, but it's still fun. It's great to look at.
I think I have an image in my head of Joker driving a car. I think it's like the first page or something like that.
Yeah.
Big splash page. Joker's driving a car. Huge laugh,
smile.
just like elongated like features, like his chin is like down to the steering wheel and his head is like hitting the top of the roof, just like laughing. And look, like this is what the Joker is to me. He completely maniacal. He looks unhinged. I do not want to be anywhere near this dude.
Yeah, I mean, like, taking things to a more adult level, so to speak, when it comes to like the criminality that the Joker's capable of at this point.
Yeah.
Creatively, it's like, let's take it to a whole nother level. This dude's, not just a goofy dude trying to put traps that are meant to be gags. No, this guy's he's gonna do that, but it's also meant to kill you.
Yeah.
Brutally.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, like, he'll shoot you, and the big old bang flag comes out, but it also does fly out and shoot you.
And
like a second later when you feel relieved that it's just a joke. I'm using quotation marks here. So that's nuts, but it's awesome because it just redefines a character and it elevates.
Yeah.
It elevates the seriousness of a story that he's involved in.
Yeah.
And that's really the kind of tone that they're creating for a new era for all the new fans to get into. Along with another major character getting revitalized that had been shelved at that point for like 10, 15 years, Two-Face. Two-Face gets a comeback.
Yeah.
And it's like, looking back at that, it's amazing that those are characters that would be just set aside. But then again, from an era in which, the funny books, these are supposed to be one-off characters. Oh, look, we've got Two-Face. You get it? He's got two faces on one face. And you got the Joker. He's a clown. He's not going to be in board. He tells jokes and robs banks and comes up with goofy crimes. He's not a big deal.
These revitalizations, too, are kind of the characterizations, I think, that stuck. Even though they are kind of taking a bit of what they were when they originally were created and introduced into the comics back in the 30s and 40s. This is the stuff that like informs the stuff that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams made is the stuff that will inform like Batman the Animated Series and the characterizations on that, or even into Dark Knight Batman '89, all that stuff.
Very influential.
Yeah, very much based on what Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams come up with.
And they even created one of the most modern, bad guys. One of another member of Batman's amazing rogues gallery. It's Ra's al Ghul.
Are you saying that right?
Am I saying that right?
Is it Raz?
Is it Ra's al Ghul?
You're not Ra's al Ghul. I watched him die.
Meanwhile, bystander just hanging out watching this like,
Oh, I guess Bruce got into some shit when he was away.
man, what is going on here? Ooh, those pigs and blankets? Yeah, Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head.
Yeah.
That's a huge introduction, and of course,
Big character.
Yeah, big character, and through Ra's al Ghul, you've got Talia al Ghul, and the Lazarus Pit,
Yeah.
the League of Assassins,
Yeah.
and Nanda Parbat,
Oh, yeah.
and then down the road, many years later, you get Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
So, a character with such longevity and a little bit more of a other characters, other famous characters get tethered and created through him. It's like it's pretty fun.
Another thing too that the creation of Ra's al Ghul helps Denny O'Neil kind of set Batman up as a globe-trotting hero.
Yeah.
Somebody who's kind of more James Bondish, which is kind of in this whole Bronze Age. He kind of gets more James Bondish, like wearing a nice suit. He was always well dressed and his Bruce Wayne persona was always supposed to be smooth and everything. But this is more him like going all over the world, tracking down Ra's al Ghul, tracking down other places. There's another story where he fights a World War II German fighter pilot at some point. I don't know if Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams wrote that one, but this one that's popping into my head. He's going all over the world. International.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's a great extra touch to what Batman's capable of.
Yeah.
So it was fun. And Ra's al Ghul, I think another day we'll definitely do a little bit more further exploring on him. There's just a lot to unpack because I'm interested in that character a lot. And it's fun. Moving on, though, I mean, in that same era of the Bronze Age, kind of going back to what you mentioned a little bit ago, how much influence that the stories that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams had that impacted, of all things, Batman the Animated Series. So you got Steve Englehart, the writer, along with artist Marshall Rogers.
Yeah.
They created they had a good run with Batman that was very popular, and one of the more notable stories that did eventually get a nice adaptation that's fun is The Laughing Fish.
Yeah. yeah. The Joker wants to copyright. He poisons a bunch of fish and then wants to copyright the fact that they look like him.
And other politicians in the government are like, that's not how that works.
And then he kills them.
It's crazy. I love it, though. I love that the Joker wants to copyright something.
Yeah. Perfect Joker caper.
Yeah, it's like it's serious, it's dark in a sense, but it's also goofy.
Yeah,
I think that's what very much in line.
Yeah, Batman fighting a shark too at some point in there.
Oh God, yeah, but no, it's very much in line.
And the thing too, so like Batman fighting a shark, that sounds like a golden age stupid kind of, thing that would happen. But the way that it's drawn, is so compelling and looks like, oh shit, this is exactly what it would look like if a Batman had to fight a shark.
That's minus the shark repellent in his utility belt.
Minus the bat shark repellent, yeah.
And they also, especially with Marshall Rogers, came up with a redesign of what we now know as Deadshot. So he's not some dude in a top hat, a mustache, and a domino mask, and a fine tuxedo.
Throwing his money in our faces, just showing us, hey, I'm a dapper man.
Yeah.
I got money for a top hat. What do you got?
Yeah, now this time around, he is a deadly assassin with a full-on suit of tactical suit, full red mask or white mask with the eye thing and the arm, like the wrist guns, just everything that if you know about Deadshot, that's what these are the guys that made what Deadshot looks like more popularly now.
They also Steve Englehart also created Rupert Thorne, who's a big player in the animated series. We have yet to see him, though, in live action.
Now, they would come back together in the early 2000s to write to do another Batman story together called Dark Detective. And that one, once again, features the Joker, But this time he's entering politics as he's
No.
running for governor of Gotham City, you know,
Who's
or
gonna vote
the
for
city state,
Joker?
whatever it is. Well, that's the big thing. Like, you know, the whole the Uncle Sam artwork of "I Want You."
Yeah.
Well, it's Joker pointing at you: vote for me or die, or no, vote for me or I kill you. So, it's a classic. Like, it's classic. It's a goofy Joker, but you can't laugh him off because
He's gonna kill you.
he'll kill you, man.
He'll kill you
He'll
dead.
kill you dead. But let's get into the modern age,
Yeah.
dude. The 80s. So that's where we get
Quit
some.
living in the past, man. We're getting into the modern age.
We're in the modern age in the 1980s. God. Yeah, but you know what, though? Around this time, we're starting to get more duos and teams.
Yeah, more credit.
Yeah.
Where credit is due.
And you know what? At the top of that list of one of the greatest writer-artist combos is just Frank Miller.
Great writer-artist combo, Frank Miller.
But more famously in, was it 1985 is when it came out, right? Or 1986? I think it's
I think it's 86. yeah.
86.
I don't know.
The Dark Knight Returns.
Big one.
That's a huge story.
This is a big influential kind of still to this day is influencing everything that writers do. They're either trying to do something like it or
Like, yeah, they
Trying
want to
to-
live. They want to live up to that standard.
Yeah,
they
or
want to
the-
do something that's as impactful.
yeah, or they want to subvert it in some way. And no matter what, if you're writing Batman, you're thinking about Dark Knight Returns in some way.
And we can get lost in a long, subject of this when it comes to the Dark Knight Returns, and one day we will talk more about it. But the protein of it is simply this: it's a story that really encapsulates the history of Batman up to that point, along with kind of really, really bringing him down to earth
Yeah.
in a more militant kind of mindset, and giving you this inside look of this gritty version of Batman who is just, been there, done that.
Yeah.
With everything, and it really gives you like this a different tone than you've ever witnessed before.
Yeah, this is in this era you get more into the psychology of Batman. Dark Knight Returns definitely gets into the psychology of why this guy puts on a bat suit or his compulsion to do it. Also, too, I don't know if we had mentioned it, but in this time too, Grant Morrison and Dave McKean write Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth.
Yeah.
And again, that's another one too that dives into the darkest aspects of Batman's psyche as he goes through Arkham Asylum and confronts all these madmen that he's put away and what all these madmen kind of bring out in him. So yeah, you're really getting into the psychology of what Batman is, why he does what he does, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and that'll be a story for another time, but definitely recommended reading for Frank Miller as a writer and artist. The Dark Knight Returns, nice little one man show there. But it's not the only thing Frank Miller's done. You may or may not have heard about this, but Frank Miller, along with artist David Mazzucchelli, they did Batman Year One.
Year One.
Did you know about that?
You know what?
Have we-
I feel like we may have talked about this before.
I think we've done this already.
Possibly one episode ago.
Yeah, guys, Batman Year One, another tremendous artistic duo with Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. If you didn't know, we must refer you to episode 1,
Yes.
Year One, where we fully talk about the comic book as well as its impact and the animated adaptation. Definitely would refer to you for that for further exploration
Yeah.
and more information. But next up on that list, another tremendous duo with a comic story of Batman that really impacted a ton of things that's still being felt to this very day. I'm talking about writer Alan Moore and artist Brian Bolland in Batman: The Killing Joke.
Killing Joke.
It's not even a long story.
No, it's a one-shot issue.
The one-shot issue.
It is basically what The Dark Knight Returns is to Batman, The Killing Joke is to Joker. It's the thing that is supposed to kind of get you in the Joker's head, get you. It gives you an origin or a possible origin of the Joker, and it's one of the things too that inspired Tim Burton to want to actually make a Batman movie.
One of the more famous stories is him walking into a writer's room and just showing off the book, and he's like, like this is the first comic I've ever read.
Yeah.
And everything about this we should, look into.
I feel like it's got a ton of Tim Burton type stuff in it, like circus, weird clowns, and
Bad comedy.
yeah. Yeah, things that are supposed to be.
And you know what? Torturing a father.
Hey, torturing a father. Yeah, that's
Daddy
right.
issues in there, man.
Yeah. But yeah, things that are supposed to be fun and for kids is turned askew and given a demented kind of
Flip.
going through a demented prism.
And then on that, it's also exploring more personally this relationship that is Batman and the Joker.
Yeah,
From the beginning to the end, it's Batman trying to sort of figure out, can we at least come to some sort of resolution here?
Yeah.
Or are we going to end up killing each other?
Yeah.
And
Which, given a certain reading, Batman kills the Joker at the end of it. Possibly. Possibly.
Nah.
You don't think so?
No.
You don't think he broke him?
No.
Not one bad. That wasn't his one bad day.
Nah.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right.
Nah. But also recommended reading Batman the Killing Joke. Very quick read, but one of the most impactful stories to this very day, because it's something that they just had to make canon all of a sudden after that success.
Even in like The Dark Knight,
Yeah.
that doesn't show any origin for Joker. They still give the concept in Killing Joke.
Multiple choice.
Yeah, he says, if I have a past or an origin, I prefer it to be multiple choice. And Heath Ledger's Joker gives multiple different ways of how he got his scars.
Yeah. It really is like one of the most, and it's also the idea too of one bad day,
Yeah.
which was a huge theme in the
Dark
story.
Knight, yeah.
And it's a huge theme in The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Joker's trying to show everybody that they're not unlike him, that they are all like, you push people to a certain limit and they're going to be just like me. They're going to see the world exactly how I see it. It's all a joke. Everybody compromises and is bad when the chips are down. Everybody is a maniac.
I mean, dare we say more?
No.
In the future. In the future, maybe. But no, absolutely. The book is a huge impact, and it definitely has, to this very day, even in the comics, is still revered, and it's like nobody can resist to not touch on that, mytho, and to go back and to really reference it or to even explore further. So it's something else. Kind of finishing up the 80s here, we've got Jim Starlin, the writer, famous for creating another malevolent figure in modern comic book villainy.
Villeneuve?
Bad guy stuff.
Denny Villeneuve?
Dylan Villanueva? What? No. Jim Starlin co-created Thanos.
Yeah. Across the street over from Marvel. But
Across the street.
That's out of the purview of our podcast here.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to focus on that. But he teamed up with artist Jim Aparo, and they worked on A Death in the Family.
They killed Robin.
Well, the people killed Robin. The people. Yeah, so apparently new Robin, who took on the mantle after Dick Grayson grew up and hated his dad and wanted to be his own man's, became the Nightwing, or just Nightwing. And Batman ended up taking in another stray. I probably shouldn't refer to a kid as a stray. But he took in Jason Todd, another kid who was living on the streets, had a rough upbringing, but had potential and became Robin. However, this version of Robin was a little bit more headstrong, and was not at the time, I think, considered a very popular character.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that he was a real dick, but not like Dick Grayson. He was a jerk. Just
really
kid.
sprang out at you. Yeah, he was a brat.
Yeah.
So they decided to make this story a little bit interesting, which if you believe that, then there we go. So it goes as this, that Denny O'Neil, and I think he was taken over at that time.
He was the editor.
He was the DC editor. And they put it out to a vote.
900 number.
900 number. Call it in. Does Robin live or does Robin die? So you see, they're in Iran, was it? Or was it
maybe
some other Middle Eastern country that was, I guess, this is the 80s, so everything's like USA versus the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised to hear that in American comics you've got Batman taking on terrorism in some form or another.
Yeah.
But Jason Todd's going to try and figure stuff out with his birth mother. Ends up getting
Sarajevo. Maybe Sarajevo.
Is that what
Is that the city? I don't know, I'm sure.
I'm not gonna look it up now. We'll just figure it out later. But basically he gets trapped by the Joker, and the Joker beats the hell out of him with a crowbar.
Yeah.
But not to death, just near death. And then the building gets blown up. That's the end of that issue. Then it's just a matter of, did the fans vote that he's alive or dead? They voted him dead.
He was gone.
He's dead. He's dead. D-E-D, dead. They killed off Robin. And you got that very iconic...
Heartless. Bunch of heartless fans.
Bunch of ruthless people out there. I love it. But but then it creates this very iconic image of the next issue of Batman holding Robin in his arms, and just this big failure of his that he allowed this to happen. And it's just one of those things. I don't know. It's a bummer, but it's iconic.
It's a bummer, man.
It's a bummer, man. But it affected in the story. It went on to affect Batman.
It affects him for a long time. Even still, because it's like kind of thought of as his biggest failure. Even though Jason Todd is back, it's still.
It was a rough relationship, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Still is.
You let me die.
Yeah, and you just let Joker go on killing more people.
That's a great animated adaptation too. Is the Batman
Under the Red Hood?
Under the Red Hood.
Yeah,
really great. Very very emotional too, and like makes sense. Like, Jason Todd wants Batman to kill Joker, just because Joker kills Jason Todd, and he just wants to feel that Batman cares about him, and that that's the way he's going to show it, because he's too effed up right now.
But Jason Todd's death in the comics was a huge impact to Batman in the story.
Yeah,
because it makes him reluctant to take on another ward, which eventually he does with Tim Drake.
Because he's a madman.
Tim Drake is probably my favorite Robin, kind of.
Yeah. I feel like Tim Drake is the Robin that, like, I feel like he doesn't have maybe I haven't read a lot of stories, but he doesn't have a lot of personality to me. He's just like the good boy. I feel like he's like the good Robin. He
is. He is the good Robin.
He is the good Robin.
He's actually, in terms of like he's not emotionally on the level of Bruce, but intellectually he is on the level of Bruce. Like, he's a good detective, and he's a formidable fighter. He's smart. He's capable.
Yeah.
Like, he's exactly like the best qualities of Bruce in terms of like just. I think what Bruce really just hopes he could end up like,
like Bruce got it right with this Robin.
Yeah, like, this is the one Robin who turned out just fine. All the other ones, damaged goods.
There's a learning curve there. He had to go through a couple of Robins before he could figure it out.
But Jim Starlin, Jim Aparo, they finish off the 80s with a bang. And we go into the 90s, where, continuing off with how things were for Batman in the comics at that time, is going right into Nightfall.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest teams to kind of come together that really made, probably without a doubt, like a top 5 image and story, I would say, of the Batman, mythos. I keep using that word. I got to think of something else. But anyways, I'm talking about writer Doug Mensch, or is it Munch?
Or is Monk?
It Monk?
Menk?
I say Mensch.
Let's say Mensch.
Mensch. Doug Mensch. And returning again, Jim Aparo.
Look at that. On the list twice.
He's our first repeat. But they...
I guess Frank Miller was on the list twice.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, Frank.
Sorry, Frank. We forgot about you. All right, so Frank Miller and Jim Aparo, two-timers. Two-timers on the list. But yeah, Doug Mensch and Jim Aparo, they came together, part of the Nightfall storyline. That was huge. And there was a huge buildup for that, too, because it was Batman Venom leading into it. And then I think there was like another story.
Yeah.
Vengeance of Bane. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, then we lead into Nightfall, and one of the most important issues, titled The Broken Bat. Literally what it is. It's Bane, who has exhausted Batman to the very point that he catches him off guard in his manner. He's already taken out Alfred, and it's just having this big boss fight. But Batman's been just drawn to exhaustion, and Bane manages to break his back.
Yeah.
And one of the most iconic, like, panels where it's like, wasn't I won't kill you, whatever else, but I will break you.
Yeah.
And then big backbreaker.
Backbreaker, man. He was that way for, I think, a year?
Yeah,
Maybe more?
they went with Jean-Paul Valley being Batman for that year. So it was a long Nightfall's a super long story, like
Yeah.
just a continuous thing, because it's like this whole build up and the evolution of it all.
Yeah.
And then it was like this big turning point for Batman in the comics, and it was just a really interesting concept. Like Bruce Wayne has been beaten,
Yeah.
definitively.
The bat's been broken.
Yeah, and just a whole slew of other events that occurred.
Yeah.
But Doug Mensch and Jim Aparo, they just, that was a great team that really kind of created a lot of those iconic moments in that story, and that being the biggest one.
Yeah.
But then let's move along to my favorite duo. That's right, I'm biased. I'm talking writer Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale. Man, what didn't these guys do? Other things, I'm sure. But David, they did 3 Halloween specials that's been in a collection called Haunted Night.
Wow.
And then being sort of lured by Archie Goodwin, who's a...
I like that Halloween stuff you do. I don't know how Archie
I
Goodwin
like that
talks.
Halloween stuff. I like what you do with mobsters. And that's how we got The Long Halloween.
The Long Halloween.
I love The Long Halloween.
Yeah.
It's this, 13 issues? I think it's 13 issues, like
Now
12 or
that
13.
sounds like a long Halloween.
It does. It goes over like the span of a year and a half, and it's just this long mystery, and it's Batman going through his rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the elements of this was also used for like Batman Begins, The Long Halloween. I'm sorry, The Dark Knight. And even in the upcoming movie The Batman, where it's like I've heard that there is a lot of influence of what The Long Halloween is.
Yeah.
And it's because it's this mystery. It's this, it's Batman taking on all these different villains, and it's just this overwhelming crime that's going on with the mobsters and the rogues gallery.
Yeah.
It's a great mix of everything, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I love this story. It's my absolute favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a wonderful story, and like the Tim Sale artwork is amazing, very distinctive. He's
Very.
got super distinctive
I
style.
would never ever tell anybody that Tim Sale's artwork is beautiful,
Right, yeah.
but I love it.
But it's awesome.
It's awesome. It's it's a very comic book, art style.
I think of his I feel like it's very angular. There's a lot of like sharp points. I'm thinking of like Batman's nose. It's very very sharp. And huge. He draws a huge Batman. Where I'm just like, there's no way this dude is going to be like jumping off rooftops.
Jumping off rooftops. And you're wearing a mask.
Wearing a mask. But yeah, and like you said, very influential. Goes on to get a couple of sequels actually with Dark Victory.
Follow up with Dark Victory.
And there was a
spin-off with Catwoman, When in Rome.
Yeah.
And then they most recently did come out with a single issue called The Long Halloween Special. And by the way that ended, it sounds like we might get a little bit more. Ooh. And all of that was done by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And it's not even the first time they've worked together on other comics. So like this is just the impact they've had on Batman, but they've done stuff for Marvel with Daredevil, Captain America, Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
And did they do Hulk too or no?
Yeah, they did a Hulk one too, I
It
believe.
was Hulk Ray?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, they're one of my favorite writer combos of all time, and I'm very biased. I love the Long Halloween.
Yeah, that's the one that you would give. Anybody asks you what Batman book should I read, you would give them Long Halloween.
Always. Yeah. That's what I do. Yeah. read the Long Halloween.
Yeah.
There's no greater complete story that gives you like this big mystery that gives you all these other cool elements, that it's Batman versus the mob, and it's also Batman versus the Joker, or Batman versus the Scarecrow, Batman chasing Catwoman, being seduced by Poison Ivy. It has it all, man.
Yeah.
What doesn't it have? I'll tell you what it doesn't have.
What doesn't it have?
It's going to be what leads us into the 2000s. I'm talking about another writer-artist duo. I'm talking Jeff Loeb.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's back. He's
back.
a two-timer.
He's a two-timer.
He's a two-timer. But he's teaming up this time with Jim Lee.
Whoa, another big name.
Jim Lee is a huge name. This is like, now we're getting to the point where like you're getting like mega team-ups now. Mm-hmm. we're getting into the 2000s. We just had this revolution, so to speak, in the 90s with Image Comics.
Yeah.
With a bunch of artists that broke away.
Yeah.
From Marvel.
Yeah.
Because of all the kind of nonsense that goes all the way back to Bob Kane.
Yeah. It's not getting credit, not getting the royalties, not getting the compensation that they really deserve. Because I mean, the artwork in comics, I feel, really does bring people in. Like, for me, I'll pick up a comic because it looks good.
Right.
And I'll keep reading a comic because it's written well. But you don't get that. You don't get to read it unless it looks really good. So
It's the hook.
yeah,
You know, that's what gets you in.
exactly. Yeah,
I don't look at a person I want to date and be like, oh, I guess they look all right. Now I guess I'll try and learn more about them. No, it's about the attraction.
no, it's all about the physical.
Listen, I'm shallow as hell, especially with my comic book art.
I want it looking pretty.
That's some pretty artwork, baby. Let me take a look at you. Let me get a look on the inside.
Whoa, that got a little graphic for me.
Like a novel?
Yeah,
Like a graphic novel? Bringing it back. There we go. But dude, Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb together writing Batman, that's a hell of a combo. And Jim Lee, just for a little bit reference here, he was very quickly in his career did he like rise to the top.
Yeah,
Especially in Marvel, like right away.
Definitely,
like
yeah.
he had his own. He was more notable for working on X-Men and
Drew the highest selling X-Men comic.
Yeah, like even
It
what
sold like 8 million copies. Is that right? Am I doubling it? Am I getting too much?
I
4
don't
million?
recall. I just
The 4
remember.
million?
I remember Stan Lee. It was either on Stan Lee's
comic book rates.
Yeah, it was either on comic book rates or it was a different thing. But like he walks up to like Jim Lee, who's there, young, fresh faced Jim Lee, and he's just like, "Now you sold the #1 selling comic." You know what? How many copies? 800,000, things like that. Like
Yeah.
it was a high number, and
Yeah.
you know Stan Lee obviously being at this point in time more of an ambassador and just putting him over.
Yeah.
And then he had his own solo X-Men series, and then him, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld,
Yeah.
and was
Mark
it Frank?
Silvestri.
Is it Frank Valentine? Valentine?
Yeah, Jim Valentino.
Jim Valentine, and then Rob Eccleston, whoever does Savage Dragon.
Oh yeah,
I forget that.
Eric Larson.
Eric Larson. Where did I
Yeah.
get Rob? I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, like it was a group of like, you know, a bunch of artists that were working for Marvel at the time. They just got fed up. Especially like I think Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane. Yeah, definitely.
If you ever get the opportunity, guys, check out. It's a documentary film. It's like an hour and a half. It's called The Image Revolution.
Yeah.
Fantastic watch, and it really honestly, if you want to learn more about how negative and toxic at that time, like these guys were getting compensated.
Yeah.
Like the history of it all, like what we've talked about. Like this is a great documentary to get into to learn more about it. But these guys got fed up, made their own company where each guy who worked for themselves created their own individual studio within the company. And Jim Lee was one of them. He had, was it Wildstorm?
Yeah.
And then there was some issues down the road where they wanted to do their own individual business with also going back and working with like Marvel and DC, which
Right.
they had the right to do because that was the way they had it set up.
Yeah.
And Jim Lee had the opportunity to then sell Wildstorm, his comic production, studio, and sold it to DC.
Yeah.
And he was basically working with DC again,
Yeah.
or working with a major company or publisher,
Yeah.
which was DC. And you just had this opportunity to see, you know, Jim Lee work with, you know, big companies where he can work on big, you know, characters again.
Yeah. And he's kind of worked his way all the way up to like editor.
Yeah.
Isn't he editor in chief? He's like the top top dog over at DC now.
Yeah, he's kind of almost the head of the table, I
Yeah.
think, working with Dan DiDio. Did I say that name right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, he's pretty much one of the top dogs in DC. And but so to have like him working on Batman,
Yeah.
it's a big deal.
Yeah.
An even bigger deal is
Is this his first time working on Batman?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I honestly feel like this was the first. And it's a big deal because we're talking Batman Hush.
Yeah.
Like another, like that's a era defining book of its own again
Yeah.
in this, you know, the early 2000s.
Yeah. This one creates the character of Hush, which is one that has actually had some longevity. Kind kind of come back in different media, in different stories. But it's another one that goes through everybody in Batman's Rogues Gallery. Another long series. This one takes place kind of in continuity. I don't think Long Halloween and
it wasn't initially, but I think down the road it was too big that they had to make it kind of in continuity again.
Yeah.
So and that's a great I think that's a great sign of how successful your creation is when it's too big to ignore.
Yeah.
You have to somehow include it.
Yeah.
And
I must be reckoned with.
Recognize me. Acknowledge me. But yeah, you've got Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee working on Batman Hush, introducing a new villain who's literally just this. You don't know what the hell the angle is, what's going on.
Is this a mummy? Am I fighting a mummy?
It's Batman versus the Mummy. We just willed that into existence. But yeah, like you said, it's also Batman going through his Rogues Gallery again. So it's Jeff Loeb kind of doing Jeff Loeb things because Jeff Loeb did that with Long Halloween. He did that with Dark Victory.
Yeah.
And now he's doing it with Hush. But I think I love that concept. It's a huge story that takes over a year. Yeah. And it's Batman just running through the gauntlet.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very compelling to go through it. It does make you want to just turn that page and see who's he going to run into next. How's this mystery going to unravel?
You got this gorgeous Jim Lee art.
Yeah.
It's just, I love his artwork.
Yeah.
Like, Tim Sale, I love to death. And like I said, I would never say that his artwork is beautiful.
Right.
Like, I admire it. Yeah. I enjoy it. But Jim Lee is. That's a sexy beast.
It's very
That's
pleasing.
A sexy Batman.
Yeah. All his drawings are very pleasing. Even the way he draws cars. And it's very, it's organized. It's very, clean, and it's appealing to see that,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another, like you said, it's in continuity because it's taking place through the main Batman titles. So sales are looking great. I remember, I had been out of comics at that time too, but I remember toys being released for it. I remember just because I think it was initially not released as a big graphic novel or trade. It was divided into 2 parts.
Okay.
So, I don't know. It was just one of those really huge, successful Batman stories at that time.
Yeah. And
it's just this great creative team, like a megastar team, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, kind of moving forward than that, that took up, I would say, the rest of the 2000s is Grant Morrison.
Right.
As you had referred to him earlier when he wrote and co-created the Batman Arkham Arkham Asylum on Arkham Place and Arkham Boulevard. Serious joint. I don't like it. I'm probably in the minority, and forgive me, guys. Forgive me, listeners. If you're into that book, hey, man, cool. I just don't like it. David likes it.
Shane's a hater. Hate.
I'm drinking that haterade. Yo, Grant Morrison, let me tell you, man.
You don't know shit about Batman.
You don't know shit about Batman.
Although he knows a lot about Batman.
Apparently, because he teamed up for first go-round here when he started writing for Batman in the mid-2000s. He teamed up with artist Andy Kubert, who is a second generation.
I think, who's his dad? Joe? Is it Joe Kubert?
I think so. It's definitely another Kubert.
There's 3 Kuberts, and I never know who the sons and who's the dad.
Yeah. But Andy's also, I like Andy Kubert's art. He's got really good stuff. But him and Grant Morrison teamed up, and they together they put out a bunch of issues called Batman and Son that introduces Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
Who is the son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul.
Yeah. And again, based on a kind of forgotten graphic novel.
Son of the Demon?
Son of the Demon, written by, I think, Mike W. Barr, and I forgot who the artist was.
Some other jabroni.
But
I'm just kidding. No.
So, we're talking about Grant Morrison knowing a lot about the history of Batman. His whole run is trying to make sense of everything that happened from the very first issue of Batman up until he was writing it.
All the dark and brooding stuff, all the ridiculous over-the-top stuff, the camp things,
the supernatural stuff,
the more recent serious takes, everything.
Just trying to take everything into account and say, okay, if Batman has been, doing this for 20 years or something like that. How does this all fit into his history? And like that's a really cool concept to me.
Ambitious.
Yeah, very ambitious to do that. And like taking stuff like we were talking about, Batman with a bunch of different colored suits, or Batman on different planets fighting.
Batman Zen R.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Am I saying this right?
I
think it's Zur-Anar.
Zur-Anar. Oh, God.
Taking like comics from the Golden Age, from the Silver Age that have these wild things, and like making it, this was part of like some hallucinatory training that Batman went through, because there was like an old comic where Robin dies on a planet, and
that's what introduces, I think, Dr. Simon Hurt, who will be mentioned here very soon, I should say.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, his first go round though is kind of going back and reintroducing the concept of what Son of the Demon was bringing forth, and introducing Damian Wayne, this 10-year-old boy who has been trained by the League of Assassins growing up, and is now being, Batman being forced to pay up on that child support by taking over.
And if you thought Jason Todd was a little shit,
oh man, a Robin who is like just he kills. He's got a kill. He's got a killer streak in him.
Yeah.
And he's just
he's been trained by assassins.
Yeah, and he just has this contentious, relationship with Tim Drake, and just a very hard nut to crack. Like he's just not a good egg. And honestly, it took a while. I would credit other writers and creators down the road that we will definitely talk about here very soon, but I think he's been handled a little bit more properly over the years. Yeah. But he does have a very interesting, unique, dynamic background that does make him a very special character. Yeah. So I wasn't really keen on it at first when they reintroduced or brought him in, and I'm like, I don't know, Batman having an actual son seems kind of pushy. Yeah. And committed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like he's had figurative sons all throughout, and like that seems fine to me for some reason. But then like him actually having an actual son, like, this is like an actual responsibility that he has, and like I don't want to think about that.
Well, he's responsible for this kid.
Wait, what? I'm responsible for
this kid? I've always said this was my ward, but you're saying this is my son?
This is my son. It's my blood.
I'll call the other ones chums and whatnot, but never sons.
The thing that Grant Morrison does too here is that's worth noting, and I think part of what gets me to like Damian a little bit more is Batman is shot back through time at some point.
Well, we'll get there in a sec here. But yeah, Batman does get shot through time, and it's very weird. Yeah. That kind of leads us into another writer-artist combo, and that's Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
Again. He had a long run. And this time teamed up with Tony Daniel, who I think is an outstanding artist. And not a bad writer either. He's done some solo work himself.
His own run on Batman as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not really. There's really none that's been out. I guess nothing that's been out there where it took the world by storm. But I liked his potential, and then it all got thrown out the window when the New 52 got dumped on us in 2011. But Grant Morrison and Tony Daniel, they worked together, and they had a lot of different stories. They had introduced the Black Glove organization. That also brought back Dr. Simon Hurt, which kind of goes to that hallucinate. That one story you mentioned where Robin dies and this hallucination thing, as well as the storyline, the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul. Am I saying that right? Ra's al Ghul. Bringing back Ra's al Ghul, as well as kind of just being goofy with that story. And then the big one is Batman R.I.P., which wouldn't find out for another 3-4 years, was technically not rest in peace, but rot in purgatory. So
he got you.
That was honestly, it's not like it's never like a favorite story of mine to read or that I read. It's something to me. My whole issue with Grant Morrison's run personally is he is a bit ambitious to combine every little thing possible. Yeah, it's just too messy. And
I can definitely sense that.
And it feels a lot more damaging to try and hand that off to another writer to be like, now make sure it's in continuity now. But you just what?
The thing that I've noticed is that listening to Grant Morrison talk about this stuff is way cooler than sometimes reading his stuff, because like you said, his stuff is like a little like I feel like I'm missing something, which maybe I'm just dumb. Maybe I'm just not picking up on.
Are you dumb?
I'm a dummy.
You got a brain in there.
But like listening to Grant Morrison talk about it, there's Grant Morrison was on Kevin Smith's podcast, Fat Man on Batman, and talking just specifically about Batman. And like to hear him talk about it is like so cool and inspiring and very cool. He also wrote a really great section of one of his comics. Maybe it is in R.I.P. Batman is like has been buried alive in like the previous comic, and like in this issue, it's him like thinking about having to be prepared for any eventuality. And I think it goes through a couple of things that he did as he was training as a younger man. And it all culminates in him basically saying, I'm Batman and I'm prepared for any eventuality. And him basically just like clawing himself out of that coffin. So like he's prepared himself to be buried alive at some point and get out of this.
I mean, of course he is.
Of course he is.
Of course he is.
And like stuff like that one particular, it's like maybe a 2 or 3 page, sequence. It makes me go like, this is why I love Batman. This is like such a great thing about Batman. Yeah, hearing him talk about it sometimes is much cooler than actually reading it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fine perspective. That is something. It's just, I mean, it wasn't clicking for me personally. Yeah. And hey, for the listener out there, if you've read Batman R.I.P. or if you plan on getting around to it, let us know what you think. Honestly, because am I missing something?
Yeah.
Am I out of touch?
No, Shane. It's the children who are out of touch.
But yeah, let's get out of the 2000s. It's time to get into the future, the 2010s. Hey. Now, we mentioned that little thing called New 52. Mm-hmm. And the thing about New 52 is it was all right. But if you had to look at some of the more shining examples, I bring you writer Scott Snyder and artist Greg Capullo.
Yeah.
Who, Greg Capullo, you might recognize his work from Spawn. He did a lot of Spawn.
Yeah, he's kind of the main artist on Spawn after Todd McFarlane.
Yeah, after Todd McFarlane took a step back to just make a movie and capitalize on selling toys and sculpting toys, whatever he does.
Yeah.
Just really enhancing the focus of the business of his studio and really capitalizing on that success. Mm-hmm. And Greg Capullo is outstanding. He has now that is like a beautiful comic book style art.
Yeah, the thing with Greg Capullo is the eyes for me. Like that's one of the things that will make me go like, oh, this is Greg Capullo. Greg Capullo does this thing with like half-lidded eyes where like you can see the eyelid. And like his Bruce Wayne, I feel like, has a kind of half-lidded eye.
Yeah. I like the facial reactions he draws, and I like the action sequences he puts together.
There's a great action sequence in what is it? Is it Night of the Owls? That storyline where a bunch of Talons are descending on Wayne Manor. And it's also very, very well written, another very cool Batman thing. Batman has retreated down into the Batcave, opened up like his like safe room or something like that, got into it. I think Alfred is also safe in the room or something like that. He's got Alfred to safety. And you don't see it at first, but he gets into a thing, and I think you see like through a visor, there's like a red lit visor. Mm-hmm. All the Talons are breaking on the door. They're all trying to get into this room, and they're about to get in. Finally, the door bursts open, and it's Batman in a giant mech suit. And Batman just saying, "Get the hell out of my house." And like that's another like big page like reveal where it's like, this is why I love Batman, because he's prepared for every eventuality.
But yeah, you kind of hit a little topic there. One of the more the first big storyline that they wrote together for the New 52 was the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
And introducing the Court of Owls. Mm-hmm. And and I mean, I'm gonna touch on this in the future. I've chewed David's ear off on this a lot. I mean, the New 52 really kind of shook things up and probably made things a lot more inconvenient for certain creators. Mm-hmm. So they definitely had to wing it.
Yeah.
And with this particular story, I wouldn't really ever consider it a Bruce Wayne story as much as it should have been a Dick Grayson centric
really
Batman story.
When you mentioned this to me, like everything made sense then. Because you and me again have talked about Court of Owls starts off and it's Batman has been Batman for a while, and now he's starting to figure out that he doesn't know Gotham as well as he thought, and he gets trapped by the Court of Owls in this maze and all this stuff. And it's stuff that it's like, if you're Batman, you probably would know. You wouldn't not know about these people.
Yeah,
you
would have had a clue.
Yeah,
like it's Batman.
Yeah.
It's Bruce Wayne as Batman.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but now what your theory is? Go ahead
man,
and tell us.
I don't know if I want to get into that.
You can just tell
Do we
me.
have time?
I think we got time.
So
we've made it this far. Come on, man.
Listeners, for the listeners that are avid comic book readers, if you haven't read a series, it was early Scott Snyder work with DC. It was Gates of Gotham, which this took place prior to the New 52 relaunch, where Dick Grayson was Batman. And this is like when Bruce Wayne came back, too, from his time travel trip. And he's off developing Batman Inc. across the world, finding other people to represent, his vigilante cause. And there's situations going on in Gotham where notable landmarks are being destroyed. Landmarks that have existed for the better part of a century or longer, being created by or developed by the core families of Gotham, the Waynes, the Elliots, the Cobblepots, etc.
Yeah.
And so it's Dick Grayson as Batman, it's Damian Wayne as Robin, and you've got Cassandra Cain isn't Batgirl, she's just the Bat. And you've got Stephanie Brown as Batgirl. Tim Drake is Red Robin. So the Bat family's stepped up in this time period, in this continuity, which was exciting because it really felt like they're moving things forward in a way. And Scott Snyder had been writing for Detective Comics at that time, and he came up with another great story that you should check out is Black Mirror, which really kind of further, and I feel like Scott Snyder writing for Dick Grayson as Batman, he got it. He knew what sort of things to put in front of Dick Grayson as a challenge and to evolve him as Batman. Better than I think Peter, I don't think Peter Tomasi had written for, but like Tony Daniel was writing for him. I know Grant Morrison had teamed up with Frank Quitely to introduce the team of Batman and Robin with Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne, and it was a fun dynamic because the roles are kind of reversed with the tones.
Yeah.
But basically, the Gates of Gotham was meant to sort of be a setup, and at one point, Hush or Tommy Elliott had been sort of broken out of Arkham as a hostage by this dude in this steampunk engineered aquatic kind of submarine outfit, and he's the big villain. He's the architect or whatever his name is, and Dick Grayson is just trying to fight this dude or figure what the heck's going on, what's his agenda. And Tommy Elliott would drop little tidbits of info where he's like, you really don't know the history of Gotham, do you? You don't know there's more going on that you understand.
Yeah, and it makes sense for Dick Grayson to not necessarily know all the entire history.
He didn't grow up in Gotham. He was in a circus, a traveling circus.
Exactly.
So how would he know the deep, rich history of Gotham and its darkest corners, And so it really laid preemptively a lot of groundwork. Now, around that time, boom, New 52 is getting announced and it's launching in like a couple months or whatever.
Yeah.
Rebooting everything, resetting things. To this, currently, if you were to read interviews with some of the writers and artists that were working around that time, they were confused as what was in continuity, what's different, what's this, what's that, what can we use, what can we not use.
Yeah.
There was just no actual major precedent.
Yeah.
So, at this time they're being told, well, Bruce Wayne's going to be Batman again. Dick Grayson's going to go back to be Nightwing, and he's going to have his own title being written by Kyle Higgins, which was very good. But here we are. We've got Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo writing Batman, the main titles, and they're doing the Court of Owls story. And when you see what unfolds, and you see how inexperienced, in a sense, Batman is acting in certain moments.
Yeah.
And it's makes you think. The world's greatest detective never had a fucking clue that there's been a secret society. Now, you can have that argument even when he was active as Batman.
Right.
But I think it's more of an argument of, what's going on when he's not Batman, when he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And Dick Grayson is.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be a Dick Grayson story.
Yeah, it makes sense. Makes total sense, man.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. And, there's nothing more I would love to do one day than to meet Scott Snyder and just simply ask, like, was this the thing? Because I've been thinking about this for years. There's no chance in hell that Court of Owls was strictly a Bruce Wayne story.
Corner him in some Comic-Con and be like, hey, man, hey.
Right after he gets out of the bathroom and he's drying his hands, like, hey, Scott.
Hey, don't jerk me around, Scott.
Don't jerk me around. But so Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, they come out swinging with Court of Owls. That was a very popular story.
Yeah.
How
long is their run on Batman?
The 1 through 50 or 52.
Okay.
They went for a long while, and then they kept working on more stories afterwards. They're still kind of working, and they're still working together on other projects.
Yeah,
like Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo just seem to be a great fit for each other in terms of creativity and what they want to do. And Batman being they've probably have done more Batman stories together than anybody else that we've talked about on this list.
Wow,
together that they've done that. It's crazy. But they did Court of Owls. And then they follow that up with another big story, Death of the Family, which brings back the Joker.
Yeah.
Who, in that point in time that this was released, in the comics was not around for 2 years.
Right, because he had technically died or something. He had his face cut off.
He volunteered.
He cut his own face off,
he volunteered to have his face removed from his body. Yes. So he came back, trying to break Batman.
Stapled his face back on and said, "You know what? I'm going back out there.
I'm back, and I'm hanging on." To my face. But he came back, trying to disrupt the family, the Bat family, and break them up. The next big story they did after that was also kind of pretty big, was Zero Year. So it's another attempt of doing a sort of origin story of Batman, retelling.
Going back before year one.
Yeah. Zero Year.
0 year.
But it's an attempt to, once again, the whole New 52 continuity and the stories they were telling. You didn't know what was in continuity anymore because they're trying to do a thing where it's supposed to promote these books to boost sales for new readers. Don't worry about it. You've never read a Batman book before? That's okay. Pick this up. We'll take care of you.
Yeah,
I guess. So it's confusing for a comic, for someone like myself, who buys these comics every week.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what?
So this guy's alive, but he's been dead for 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, but. So that means this doesn't matter anymore? Is right. I get it, and I know that's the way of life. That's the way of comics, but you kind of need a little bit more clarity. Is this a complete reboot? Just,
just
commit to that.
Yeah.
Because there's writers and artists that get together, and even during the New 52, that would reference Batman Year One.
Yeah.
Or they'll reference, The Long Halloween or any of these things. And it's but they're not supposed to be in continuity, apparently.
Yeah.
And yet they are.
Right.
And yet they're not. But who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe. Somehow? What do you think? Don't worry about it. But they did 0 Year, which was another attempt of doing a Batman origin type, kind of early Gotham days.
Yeah.
And then they came back swinging with Endgame, which brought the Joker back again. And that was a big story, too.
Yeah.
Kind of sort of... knocked both Joker and Bruce Wayne out of the equation for about a year.
Oh, okay.
And then in between, they kind of had Jim Gordon as Batman, which
right.
It was kind of cool.
Kind of cool,
actually, the way they kind of... Scott Snyder's a very good writer. Mm-hmm. You look at Batman, you think of how fantastical he is with his gadgets and technology and being advanced and being ahead of the curve of where current tech is. Scott Snyder does an incredible job of just taking things to a different level that doesn't really necessarily... Yes, it's out of the realm of possibility today. Yeah. Maybe in 20 years it'll be a thing, or who knows. But he has managed to, just do a thing that just makes Batman more advanced and ahead of everything else.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
It made me believe that Jim Gordon could have been Batman, because his bat suit was more technically technology infused. It was
very tactical.
He had a lot of help.
Yeah, it was very tactical, very tech heavy.
Yeah,
and there's levels to that. And then they came back for Last Night on Earth, which was like a 3-issue kind of miniseries of sorts that they did after ending their run with Batman, the main Batman title. And that was a fun story too. Once again, it's just them working together, doing artwork. And then they came back and did Dark Knight's Metal, which is technically a Batman-centric story because it involves not just Batman and the Justice League, but every evil variant of Batman throughout the multiverse. From the Batman Who Laughs, which is one of their biggest creations in modern times right now. I mean, it's crazy. It's the Batman if he was the Joker. It's nuts.
Great.
Visually, it's nuts. And
he wants to get nuts.
you want to get nuts? All right, we'll get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Come on, man. Let's go. Let's get nuts.
Yeah. But yeah, more famously, you've got the Batman Who Laughs, which is just one of the most disgusting, awesome designs you can look at. Kind of really making Greg Capullo kind of really dig deep into his Spawn time period that he was drawing for Spawn on that one. And then the other evil variants of Batman that he has to fight. And then they do have a sequel to that, which is Dark Knight's Death Metal. I do have all those books. I haven't read them yet, but that's more of a Wonder Woman centric kind of story in a sense, from what I was told. But it also still involves the Batman Who Laughs. So whatever, it's Batman. Finally, nope, that's it. That's all I got. I know they've done some other stuff together, but I think as far as Batman goes, those are the biggest pies to really kind of get a piece of.
Yeah.
So, and then entering the 2020s, it's still very early on right now, and we're still trying to find our footing. There's so many other artists and writers out there working together, doing things. Personally, I've been a fan of James Tynion IV, who's a writer working with Jorge Jimenez.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying that correctly. And together they worked on Joker War, which was Joker basically just hitting at Batman as hard as he could because he now knows that he's Bruce Wayne. And he also managed to steal all of his billions of dollars and to basically just make the entire city's life a living hell. And yeah, through that though, they created a new girlfriend / sidekick or partner for the Joker called Punchline. Alexis K. So she's like this huge, fan of the Joker and believes in him, believes in his cause, and also has her own motives and purposes. And yeah, just another. I mean, it's not really taking the world by storm right now, but
yeah, I was gonna say, has she been very popular? Because I haven't been.
I don't really think so, but it beats me. I mean, it's not like I talk to anybody and they're like, "Oh yeah, Punchline's cool." I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so, but yeah.
She ain't no Harley Quinn, huh?
Nah. Harley Quinn's a special type of character, and it's a one of a kind. I mean, it's a different dynamic because this one is a little bit more vicious and willing to kill, and believes what the Joker gets the joke, so to speak, is the idea. But yeah, and she doesn't really align herself with the idea that she's Joker's girlfriend as much as she's his partner. And she plays more mind games. She's interesting. A little too interesting. Nah. But Joker War was something different. I love the last issue of that story. It's really cool. I don't want to give much away, but
no spoilers.
Definitely worth checking it out. But that's where we're at. Dave, anything to touch on with the last couple of tandems that we got here?
I don't think so. You covered it. You've been reading it a lot more than I have, I think, more recently. So just hearing you talk about that stuff is cool, man. Makes me want to kind of jump into it and find this more recent stuff and read it. So yeah, man. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for sharing, buddy.
Well, that's our list, guys. It's a huge thing. Forgive us for the time spent on the Golden Age. Really, I feel like that was when we were doing a lot of research on this, that was the most muddled era to try and find quality creative teams, which there really wasn't anything established like that.
Bob Kane and Bill Finger, and then people trying to do their interpretation of Batman.
Right. So it's just all of that. What a heck of a journey. If you're still listening, thank you. And I hope that you've learned a thing or two about a thing or two when it comes to some suggestive, team ups there that would be worth looking into. That way, when you're looking at a trade paperback or you're looking at a comic book issue, if you see those names, just know, at least from me personally, and probably by David here, if I can speak for him, which I don't probably have to. Just know that, hey, it's worth looking into if you see those two names on a comic.
Yeah. Give it a look. Just a little kind of jumping off points for everybody. If you want to jump into it and then jump off of it.
Yeah.
Find these writers and artists, and you're probably going to find a good story that's important in the Batman mythos.
Yeah. And then once again, listener, if you're an avid reader or if you know a thing or two about a thing or two, did we miss anybody? I'm sure we did. There's plenty.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we did.
I'm absolutely certain we did. If you got a favorite team, reach out to us, let us know, share
Yeah.
with others. There's just so much talent, so many creative teams out there. And quite frankly, you just want to make sure that everybody gets their, recognition.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we spent a lot of time in the golden age, because nobody was
Yeah.
getting that kind of recognition.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's tough because we have to, it's just a lot has changed and
Yeah.
things are still improving. I don't want to assume things are perfect right now, but they're better.
Yeah.
People are going to get more of an opportunity to get credit for making a side character that gets
Yeah.
made into a movie, or their own TV series.
Yeah.
For example, Peacemaker.
Yeah, there you go.
Never in my wildest dreams would I never knew of Peacemaker until James Gunn made it the Suicide Squad. And
Right.
I'm like, when they were announcing, I'm like, who the fuck is Peacemaker?
And then you were like, fuck, it's Peacemaker.
fuck, it's Peacemaker. It's John Cena, and his name is John Cena. I love that guy now. And the Peacemaker series has been a joy to watch so far. I mean, but who would know that? And
Yeah.
these creators and artists, they work very hard to try and do what they can to be, different and to have their own identity. So definitely that's the message here, is to just always, kind of be that independent sort of site. you
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
That makes sense.
Maybe.
Independent site.
I don't know, man. I stopped listening a little while ago.
There we go. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's what you can listen to the next episode. David, do you want to know what we're doing? You know what we're talking about?
Refresh my memory.
I'm talking about the Batmen.
More than one?
More than one Batman. I'm talking about Batmen.
Whoa. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na,
Batman. 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 That's right, David. We're talking about Batman. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what that means?
Are you talking about the actors that have portrayed Batman throughout the years?
Get out of my brain.
Oh, never. I'm going to stay there.
It's warm. It's cuddly. But yeah, dude, we're gonna be talking about all the live action portrayals of Batman. We're not gonna talk about each movie and be like, oh, look at these great movies. We're gonna talk about the guys who played the Batman in Batman movies. And we got a nice list. I mean, you might already know them. Michael Keaton. That's it.
Whoa, don't give away the whole list.
Is that a spoiler?
Don't give away the list just yet, man.
All right. But just know you tune back into the Chemical Syndicate next time. We're talking about all the live action portrayals of Batman. We're going to break it down. We're going to break it down again and break it down some more.
Give you our thoughts on who was the best.
Yeah. So, hey, David,
Shane.
you know where they can find us on social media?
Oh, no. I haven't spelled it out for myself.
no.
Oh, no.
I can't spell.
Is it check out Chem Syndicate?
Spell it out.
I'll spell it out. Let me spell it out. ChemSyndicate. I did it.
And you can use that and find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram, and you can even find us on Facebook. You know that thing. It's not Meta yet.
Whoa.
It's just Facebook. But you can find us there, guys. And you can also, find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, find us on all this stuff. I already said Facebook. Anyways, you can find us on YouTube as well. You can find us wherever.
Stop repeating yourself.
Yeah, guys, check us out. Keep a lookout for some more content that we're throwing your way. We've got some big plans for the future here. But yeah, keep a lookout for the next episode, the Batmen. And thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you.
A lot.
A whole bunch.
Oh, a whole bunch.
We can't thank you too much.
Ah.
Yeah.
But hey, guys, thanks for listening to the Chemical Syndicate. I'm Shane.
I'm David.
Take care, guys.
Bye.